Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Unlocking Kingdom Destiny. My name is Gaspar Anastasi. I'd like to talk to you about this wonderful blessing that God's given to all of us, and that is that we can prosper. You know, when we think about prosperity, a lot of times we think about the church just coming and taking offerings and thinking to ourselves, well, you know, we're giving a lot and seeing the church prosper, new lighting and new sound equipment and new seats, but what about us? And sometimes we get the idea that church is just the taker and not really understanding that in the sowing of a seed, like giving of our money, that God wants to bless us. Now, God's ways are not our ways. Understand this, that if we're going to follow through on the principle of prosperity, it has to come out of the sowing and reaping, the sowing of the seed that God's given us. Everything you have, everything that you are, everything that you say is a seed. A good example is when Jesus fed the multitude. I mean, there were at least 14,000 people that were there listening to him preach, and it came time after a few days that they were very hungry. And the first thing that Jesus said to the disciples, he said, you go ahead and feed them. And they looked around and said, we don't have anything. A little boy steps forward and says, hey, I got 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And God asks him to give those 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Now look what happened. When you take what you have, even though it's little as compared to the massive poverty that we're facing and the problems that we're dealing with in our own personal life, you give God the ability to do something that you can't do as long as it stays in your hand. So the 5 loaves and 2 fishes were given to Jesus. He brought them up, raised them up before his Father, and began to thank God for them. And then he said to the disciples, okay, now you go ahead and hand it out. Those 5 loaves and 2 fishes turned out to be enough food to feed the multitude. So God will take what you have as long as you give it to him, and he'll do what he can, which is a lot more than us. Now, the end of that story is this, that when it was all said and done, when everybody else was fed, there was 12 full baskets of bread and fish that were left over for the disciples and, of course, that little boy. 12 baskets. Everyone got a basket full. They only started off with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, but when they gave it to God, God was able to do the impossible. And then in turn, they got blessed, so they were able to sow more seeds. So the way to prosperity is to look and take an inventory of your life and say, what kind of seeds do I have? Well, I only have $10. Well, okay, sow $1. Bless somebody who has a need. Give it to the Lord and say, use it the way you want to. And as you do that, God will take that and multiply it to bless so many more than you could even imagine. But he'll also turn around and cause you to have more than enough to continue to sow. This is the principles that God gives to us to walk in his prosperity. I know it comes completely different the way we think as far as our worldly ways. But I want to challenge you today as we unlock kingdom destiny in our own lives to believe what God says and try that out and watch what God will do when you place what's in your hands and put it in his hands. We love you. We'll come back again real soon.